You think being seen is power. You think announcing your moves, showing your growth, letting people watch your rise, you think that's how you win. It's not. The moment you let the world see what you're building, you hand them a weapon. And they will use it. Not because they hate you. Because they can't help themselves. Because your progress reminds them of their stillness. Because your discipline is a mirror they don't want to look into. And the only way they can handle that mirror is to crack it. You are being controlled right now. Not by a person. Not by a system. By your own need to be witnessed. By your hunger for validation dressed up as ambition. You've been confusing visibility with victory for so long that you don't even see the cage anymore. You just keep performing inside it and calling it hustle. What you're about to hear will rewire how you move through the world. Not because it's motivational. Because it's surgical. This is Machiavellian strategy applied to your modern life. And once this lands, you cannot pretend you don't know. You cannot go back to the noise. You cannot unlearn the silence. Welcome to Dominion Protocol. Most people are loud about everything. Their plans. Their pain. Their potential. They post the gym check-in before the results come. They announce the business before the revenue comes. They tell their circle about the opportunity before the contract comes. And then they wonder why nothing ever materializes the way they imagined it. They blame timing. They blame luck. They blame the people around them. They never blame the mouth. There is an invisible enemy in your life. It doesn't have a face. It doesn't announce itself. It lives in the dopamine hit you get when someone responds to your story. It lives in the relief you feel when you tell a friend your plan and they say, "That's amazing." It lives in the habit of processing your life out loud. The enemy is your need for external confirmation. And it is quietly dismantling everything you're trying to build. Weak men build in public. Not because the world is watching, but because they need the world to be watching. They need the audience to make the work feel real. They need the validation to make the vision feel possible. That dependency is the leak in the foundation. That's why the structure never holds. 500 years ago, Niccolo Machiavelli understood something that most people still refuse to accept. Power is not given. It is taken. It is built in silence. It is executed through patience. And it is protected through invisibility. Machiavelli didn't write about how to be liked. He wrote about how to be effective. He understood that the greatest weapon you possess is information asymmetry, what you know that others don't, what you're doing that others can't see, what you're becoming before anyone can interfere. History has never rewarded the loudest man in the room. History rewards the man who was quiet long enough to become inevitable. After this video, you will not look at your impulse to share the same way. You will recognize it for what it is, a vulnerability dressed up as enthusiasm. You will become harder to read, harder to stop, harder to sabotage. You will develop the kind of psychological architecture that makes you untouchable not because no one can reach you, but because they can't figure out where you are. This is not about arrogance. This is about strategy. Let's get into it. Number 1. Act broke. Starve the envy before it can breathe. This is not about lying. This is about protecting your energy from people who will drain it before you have the chance to use it. When people know you have resources, money, connections, momentum, opportunity, they restructure their relationship with you around what they can extract. Not consciously. Not maliciously. But systematically. Human beings are wired to seek advantage. The moment you signal elevation, you trigger something in the people around you. Some will celebrate you to your face and undermine you in ways they'll never admit to themselves. The average person thinks that acquiring things and announcing them is the point of acquiring them. They buy the car and immediately need everyone to see the car. They get the raise and immediately need to tell people about the raise. They book the trip and immediately need to post before they even land. They have confused the achievement with the performance of the achievement. And in doing so, they've made themselves a target. Here's a scenario. You're building something. A business, a career, a financial foundation. You're 6 months in. You're not there yet, but the trajectory is undeniable. You tell your closest friends, people you trust. Within weeks, the energy shifts. The subtle questioning begins. Are you sure that's realistic? I heard most people fail at that. Don't you think you're moving too fast? They are not evil. They are threatened. And you handed them the ammunition by opening your mouth. The power reframe is this: your silence is not secrecy. It is protection. When you act like you have nothing, you remove the target. When you live below your capability, you accumulate without interference. When you don't announce the level you're operating at, you force people to respond to you based on what they see, which is a man in motion with no apparent destination. That is the most dangerous thing you can be. Luxury is for after the war, not during it. Strip yourself of the performance. Move like someone who has nothing to prove because they know exactly what they're building. Let the results be the announcement. Write this down: abundance whispers. Poverty performs. Number 2, think rich. Inside the silence, there is a different operating system running. Acting broke is the external discipline. Thinking rich is the internal one. And most people get this backwards. They perform wealth externally while their inner world is governed by scarcity. They talk about abundance while their decisions come from fear. They front the outcome while the process is riddled with desperation. Machiavellian thinking is not about being ruthless. It's about being accurate. It's about seeing the board as it actually is, not as you wish it to be. Most people operate from emotional reality, how things feel. The strategic mind operates from structural reality, how things actually work. These are two completely different maps. And only one of them gets you where you want to go. The rich mind is not about money first. It's about time. The rich mind never trades time for validation. It invests attention only where there is return. It does not spend energy managing other people's perceptions of its process. It spends energy on the process itself. Every minute you spend performing your progress is a minute stolen from actually producing it. Consider the difference between two people building the same thing. The first needs people around him to feel like he's on the right path. He checks reactions. He craves acknowledgement. He adjusts his pace based on other people's energy. The second doesn't need anyone to believe in it. He moves from a place of internal certainty. He doesn't need witnesses because he is his own witness. 18 months later, they are not in the same place. The rich mind also understands delayed gratification not as sacrifice but as strategy. Every time you resist the urge to show what you have, you're investing that energy forward. Every time you resist the urge to explain yourself to people who haven't earned the explanation, you're compounding your power. You are choosing the win over the applause. This is the operating system you need to install: outcomes over optics, depth over display, execution over explanation. You start making decisions based on where you're going, not based on how it looks from where you are right now. Burn this into your mind. You are not building for this moment. You are building for a moment that most people around you cannot yet see. Number 3, move in silence. Silence is not absence. It is dominance. There is a specific kind of power that belongs to the man who cannot be read, who cannot be predicted, who does not give away his next move, who operates with such stillness that people forget he's moving at all. And then suddenly he's somewhere completely different. Somewhere no one expected. With leverage no one anticipated. Most people think silence means you have nothing to say. The reality is the opposite. Silence means you have chosen not to give your enemies the gift of your thinking. It means you understand that information is currency and you are not giving it away for free. The moment you announce a plan, you open it to interference. Not just from enemies. From friends. From the well-meaning person who gives you advice that plants doubt. From the excited energy of people who now feel entitled to track your progress. From the subconscious obligation you create when you make a public declaration. You now have to manage other people's timelines alongside your own. You have split your attention before the race even started. Think about what happens when you keep your mouth closed. No one can talk you out of it. No one can adjust your pace. No one can preemptively tell you why it won't work. You remove the variables. You operate in a controlled environment. Just you, your execution, and the outcome. That is the cleanest possible formula. Machiavelli wrote that men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims. But the inverse is also true. The man who reveals nothing creates his own reality before anyone can challenge it. You are not deceiving. You are building without permission. You are moving without commentary. And when you arrive, no one can pretend they saw it coming, because you never gave them the script. Silence also applies to your pain, your frustration, your doubts. When you broadcast your struggle, you invite unsolicited management. You invite people into your process who will not be there for the outcome. The strong do not announce their wounds. They close them and keep moving. Let the world see the scar once the battle is over. Comment: I move in silence. Number 4. Win alone. The most dangerous man is the one who needs no one to believe in him. This is where most people break. Not from strategy failure. From loneliness. From the unbearable weight of building something that nobody around you can see yet. From the isolation of being ahead of your environment. From the silence of a room when nobody claps for the work you did today. And so they go back. They tell someone. They seek a witness. They get the brief validation. And in doing so, they open the door they spent months learning how to keep closed. Winning alone is not about rejecting people. It is about not requiring them. There is a fundamental difference between choosing solitude and being imprisoned by dependency. The man who can work in silence, celebrate in silence, grieve in silence, and still wake up the next day with his vision intact, that man cannot be manipulated. There is no lever. There is no handle. You cannot threaten what doesn't need you. The average person outsources their belief system. They need someone to tell them they are on the right track. They adjust their confidence based on external feedback. When people support them, they accelerate. When people doubt them, they slow down. Their trajectory is a function of other people's opinions. That is not building. That is begging. The man who wins alone has built his conviction on something deeper than validation. He has done the internal work of deciding what he is worth before the world agrees. He is operating from a settled identity. Not an arrogant one. Not a closed one. A settled one. He knows where he is going. He doesn't need a committee to approve the route. Here's the scenario most people never prepare for. You build for 2 years in silence. Nobody around you understands it. Nobody is celebrating you. Your peers have moved on to the next visible thing. And you are still there. In the dark. Executing. That is where most people quit. Not because the strategy failed. Because they couldn't survive their own belief without an audience. The power reframe. Your isolation is not your punishment. It is your filter. The process will remove everyone who isn't built for where you're going. Let it. Stop trying to bring people along who are designed for a different destination. Not everyone who starts with you is meant to finish with you. And that is not a tragedy. That is selection. Say it with me. I do not need permission. I do not need witnesses. I need only execution. Part 5. The integration. This is how it all moves together. This is not 4 separate principles. This is one psychology expressed in 4 directions. Acting broke is how you protect the exterior. Thinking rich is how you fortify the interior. Moving in silence is how you control information. Winning alone is how you sustain the entire architecture. When these 4 operate simultaneously, something unusual happens. You become frictionless. Obstacles that would have destroyed you before slide off. Attempts to manipulate you find nothing to grip. Envy can't locate you because you've made yourself invisible. Doubt can't reach you because you've cut the cord that connected other people's beliefs to your momentum. Machiavelli called this virtù, not virtue in the moral sense, but in the sense of force, capacity, the active power to shape outcomes. This is the virtù of the modern man. Not the man who wins loudly. The man who becomes unstoppable quietly. Most people will never do this. Not because they can't. Because they won't survive the cost of the transition. The cost is the performance. The cost is the constant feedback loop. The cost is the image they've built of themselves as someone in motion, visible, celebrated, watched. To give that up, even temporarily, feels like death. And that's exactly what it is. Here is what must happen now. That version of you, the one who needed to be seen, who required validation to feel real, who measured his progress by other people's reactions, that version must die. Not metaphorically. Not gradually. Completely. You execute the weakness. Not manage it. Not work around it. Execute it. That version of you that overshared because it felt vulnerable to hold things alone, gone. That version of you that announced plans before they were plans, gone. That version of you that adjusted your pace because someone you respect looked at you with doubt, gone. That version of you that needed the room to know what you were building in order to feel like you were building something worth knowing, gone. You don't mourn it. You don't give it a funeral. You don't look back and feel nostalgic for your weakness. You walk away from it the same way you walk away from anything that was holding you down disguised as comfort. This is not a motivational moment. This is an execution. The new version of you operates differently. He wakes up and does the work before the world knows he's awake. He makes moves that won't be visible for months. He sits in rooms without announcing himself. He lets people underestimate him because he understands that underestimation is an advantage. He doesn't need the narrative. He is the outcome. He doesn't broadcast the struggle. He doesn't perform the grind. He doesn't need to document every step to make the journey feel valid. The validity is built in. The conviction is his own. The belief is internal. The work is real whether anyone watches it or not. If this is landing, if you feel something shifting in how you see your own habits, your own hunger for visibility, subscribe to Dominion Protocol, not because you need another channel. Because you've just decided you're building differently now. And this is where that building happens. You are now standing at the edge of a different life. Not a better feeling life. A more effective one. Not a life where people cheer you on. A life where you don't need them to. This is the deal. You act broke until the empire is built. You think rich when no one is watching. You move in silence when every instinct screams for you to speak. And you win alone, with the full knowledge that the alone is temporary but the win is permanent. Most men will never accept this deal. Because it requires something they haven't built yet, the ability to be their own source. To pull confidence from execution instead of attention. To trust the process without a witness. To become powerful before becoming visible. You are not most men. The old version of you is already dead. The one reading this now doesn't need the applause. Doesn't need the timeline. Doesn't need the circle. Needs only the work and the discipline to keep doing it in the dark until the dark becomes the throne room. That is the Machiavellian truth. Power is never built where everyone can see it. It is built in silence, protected by invisibility, and revealed only when it is already too late to stop it. Move accordingly. Comment: the old version of me is gone.